Alright, we hit the like goal on the Pokemon that are still bad. So I was looking forward to sitting down and sending what I said I'd do. That brings us here today, staring at a suspiciously large snake in the grass. Yeah, it's like 8'10", and it's taller than the grass it hides in. Seviper is a Pokemon whose competitive history has boiled down to cricket noises after someone makes an unconditionally bad joke. This Pokemon has had it rough its entire life, despite having a cool design and a premier role in the DPP anime as a Pokemon on Jesse's team. We're gonna cover why it sucks, which is a lot, what it's good at, which I'm sure is like something, and how it is I would improve it, because it feels like they built this Pokemon to fail. But why? Why it sucks? Well, from a gameplay perspective, I really couldn't tell you why. I really couldn't tell you why it is that they built Seviper to be so bad. Especially when Zangoose is actually, like, kind of alright. It isn't the best itself, but you can say that your Toxic Orb Facade Zangoose has put in work versus any sort of competent team at least once, which is something you can't say about Seviper. You can just kinda tell that the developers were being malicious with this one, because there's no way they saw this spread and said, yeah, this is perfect. It's clear that they wanted you to play a mixed attacking wall breaker, but like, I don't think that I've ever seen Seviper wall break in my entire life. Its attacking stats are too low, and its defenses, even back in its debut gen, were looking a little thin. And don't even get me started on its insanely horrific speed. So, we know its stats are bad. And its typing? Well, to be quite honest, I don't know why it is they wanted us to play some sort of mixed attacker, yet didn't give us some sort of secondary stab that would make us the special attack that we were given. This Pokemon was designed in Gen 3, where whether a move was physical or special was dependent on type. And they made sure to give it Crunch too. Why exactly was Seviper not the first Poison and Dark type? Poison and Dark would have given it only one weakness, which would have been really cool. And it also would have given it two very appropriate stab types to make it a mixed attacker to some degree. I'd go so far as to say that Seviper was completely robbed out of being the first Poison and Dark type. And if you want to use a pure poison type, even back in Gen 3, you had Weezing and Muck, who, unlike Seviper, do things. This would continue to be a problem going on into later generations. So, stats and typing are a bust. What about the move pool? Surely Seviper has some sort of move pool options that let it do its job. Well, I hate to break it to you, but in my honest opinion, not really. Don't get me wrong, Seviper has a lot of coverage. It has all the Fangs, Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Flamethrower, Gunk Shot, and other various tools in its arsenal that give Seviper a lot of versatility in what it is that it could be running. You actually probably don't really know what a Seviper set would be running when seeing it in ZU Team Preview until it's too late. I don't know, I don't play ZU. ZU players, tell me how good Seviper is in the tier, and how you liked and subscribed regardless of how accurate the information is. The issue is that all of these excellent move pool options are held back by its poor stat distribution. Even with all these moves, it's too weak to damage bulkier Pokemon, and it's too frail to survive encounters with more offensively oriented ones. It also lacks Nasty Plot, which I don't understand why a snake, notorious for being the animal that describes treachery and deceit, doesn't get the move described as Nasty Plot. I take gripes with this on a personal level, and not having Nasty Plot means it can't buff Flamethrower, which is one of its better moves. Oh, but it can use Swords Dance though, because sure, okay Mystic, but what about abilities? Surely Seviper has some sort of Nope. Stop. It doesn't. It has Shed Skin and Infiltrator, and given that Shed Skin is, well, Shed Skin, which is only good on exactly Sandaconda, I'd go so far as to say it only has Infiltrator. And don't get me wrong, Infiltrator is a-okay. I think that it is a perfectly fine, solid ability. It's just that it isn't enough to make it viable, even if it bypasses screens and substitutes what it's good at. So, what is Seviper good at, so that way we know what to improve? Surely Seviper has something that it's proficient at. Well, yeah, it has a really deep move pool, which means that there is a lot of versatility that can be provided via a Swiss Army knife type of Pokemon. It's got a deep bag, a very diverse kit, and with the right buffs, it can use that kit to actually do a lot of work. It just needs to be buffed first, because good Lord Arceus, this Pokemon has been bad since the moment it spawned. It's also good at Swords Dance and Sucker Punch, but that's not a unique trait. Plenty of Pokemon can Swords Dance and Sucker Punch. In fact, I can name 5 that don't rhyme with Stand It. So let's buff our friend here to make it viable. How to fix it? Okay, so first things first. Before we ever get into its stats, I want to do move pool fixes. If Pursuit was in Gen 9, I'd give it Pursuit. But for the sake of getting to use it in past gens, I'd say that I'd have given it Pursuit straight off the rip. I'd expect a snake who slithers in the grass to know how to use Pursuit, honestly. Next, I think that Flamethrower is okay, but we're lacking power, and so I'd add Fire Blast to its kit on the special attack side of things. Next up, I'd add Nasty Plot, because I still don't understand why it doesn't have that. After that, I'd also give it Leech Life, so that way it has an additional way to gain Recover, and not having to run Giga Drain as a means to get health back. Game Freak clearly didn't design this Pokemon to have Recover or anything of the sort, so I will respect that wish. What I won't respect is that they didn't give it Strength Sap in Gen 9, and I imagine that'd work great with like Coil. So I'd want to have that so it can heal consistently and have more setup opportunity. Next up, I'd fix its typing. I think that Seviper should be Poison and Dark. Sure, it will lose its Fairy Resist, which is a little unfortunate, but having only one weakness would be so worth it. And also getting Stab on Sucker Punch and Knockoff is completely worth not being able to come in too much on a Moonblast. And besides, it just looks like a damn Dark type. I think so far, we're actually building a Mon that can be used in a format. As for its stats, base 100s in its offenses, and then no defenses to speak of, plus no speed, is actually atrocious. You either have to be really fast if you're going to be frail, or really bulky if you're going to be slow. That's basic Pokemon design. So we're going to give this Pokemon some actually solid stats. I'll set a rule for myself though. I can't let its base stat total surpass 500. So that way, I'm not building some sort of goober cracked Pokemon. With that said, I take its HP and move it all the way up from 73 to 100 in order to better its hit-taking prowess. And then I'd take the other 15 stat points I'm left with and put it into its physical attack, giving it a base 115 physical attack stat. Even if that means its physical attack is better, and Nasty Plot sets would be more rare, there would still be reason to run special attacking Seviper. That much I can assure you. Nasty Plot, Fire Blast, Sludge Wave, and Strength Sap is something I absolutely imagine being a set. With that said, where I am stuck is with its ability, since I want to replace Shed Skin with something actually more tangibly viable. My first thought is Strong Jaw to power up its Fang attacks, given that this Mon has 2 massive fangs. But I don't think that's quite what we're looking for. I weirdly imagine we give it Intimidate. Now, hang on, hear me out. You tell me that if an 8'10" giant snake approached you with that devious looking grin, that you wouldn't be scared out of your mind. And not to mention, Intimidate has lore relevance to it. Because, like how Zangoose has Toxic Boost to boost its attack when poisoned, Seviper would have Intimidate to lower its attack, so that way it can survive Zangoose's onslaught. Not only would Intimidate increase Seviper's overall longevity and increase its viability by a metric ton, but it would also have legitimate relevance to its dex entries and would make genuine sense. In conclusion, Seviper needs a complete overhaul. It needs more bulk, it needs more attack, it needs moves that actually do something in tandem with its stats, and it needs Dark added to its typing stat, as well as a whole new ability in order to be remotely viable in any sort of match that try to be on the same level of Zangoose, who already isn't exactly the best. This is why the sections for why it's bad and what I do to buff it were as long as they were, because this mon has everything wrong with it and nothing going for it. So maybe with these proposed buffs, if someone could send this to their uncle who works at Game Freak, we might be able to see our slithery friend here become relevant. Or worse, it just runs Sub, Glare, Strength Sap, and Knockoff as its new set and just becomes Diet Superior. That would suck. Let me know how you would buff Seviper in the comments below though. Anyway, I need to go watch Snakes on a Plane, because talking about this mon just got me in the mood for a classic.